Welcome to the Hidden Driveway Show. I'm your host, Amu, and joining me today we have a very special guest, Warm Wishes. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Georgie. I am in a band called Warm Wishes.
Yeah, and Warm Wishes does have some more members as well, but it was primarily a solo project at first, so that's why it's just Georgie here today, if anyone's confused by that. But to get us started, is there anything that you'd like to talk about? Is there anything on your mind right now?
Not particularly. We've really just been playing a couple cool shows recently. We're playing a show in July with ZZ Killme and a couple really cool artists. We're playing a house show at my friend's house in out in like the Hamptons this weekend. So yeah, we've just been like chilling out, recording music when we can, and playing shows when we're asked to.
Yeah, this will actually be coming out the day of the New York show in July, like on July 12th is when this will be coming out. So I guess I'll be seeing you then because I'll be there. I'm in Texas, but I'll see you there.
Awesome.
You know, the day this comes out, so that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
Do you think you're at a point now where like people like reaching out to you more to do shows? Because I feel like when artists start out, they have to like really like apply to get on like bills and stuff for shows.
Yeah, I feel very very grateful and very like privileged to be in this position at this point, because I mean it's not that we haven't worked towards it, but it's certainly a lot of luck plays into it too, just that like we've been able to make so many friends in the scene and so many like connections, if you will, that yeah, just like at least once a month pretty much we just will have someone reach out to us asking to play a show. I think part of that also has to do with the fact that as long as you seem like a cool person, like, and we can get to the show, we probably will say yes, just because like we like music. And so as long as obviously if we have to travel there, it's pretty important that compensation happens. But if it's nearby, we really just like playing and the experience of it all. So yeah, we really it's really an amazing thing that we don't have to worry about like finding a show to play a lot of the time.
Yeah, because you've been playing for it consistently for like 3 years now, right? As Warm Wishes?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, because well, Warm Wishes started as a solo project with just me at like the end of 2021, and then it was like early 2022 that this guy named John from Golden Hour Booking reached out to us to play a show in Massapequa, and then at that point I was basically like, oh crap, I've been calling myself a band, but it's not really a band at this point. So I got my roommate. She wasn't my girlfriend at the time, but she's my girlfriend now who plays bass. And we basically just put together a band. But yeah, I was just talking to Hazel about this the other day, actually, because it really just feels so nice to just be able to play shows. Because like when I was in high school, I had no idea that there was like local music on Long Island at all. And so I would just like have concerts in my backyard and just have like, I don't know, I was a bit of a loser in high school. So it wasn't anything crazy, but it would just be like a couple of my friends would show up and I would have like my friend be the opener or something and we would have a fun time. But it's just, yeah, I guess like if I had to give advice to anyone looking to play shows, it's that like you shouldn't wait until you find an opportunity. Like you should make it yourself.
Yeah, that's something I've talked to a lot of artists on here about, because for most of them, they usually like, reach out to venues to see if they can get on a bill somewhere, and they'll constantly send out emails. But I think it's cool that you're at a point now where people are reaching out to you like directly for it instead of the other way around.
Yeah, it's really nice. And like a lot of the time it will be because we're so involved in the like DIY sort of community. And so a lot of the times it'll be like one of our friends is putting together a show, and maybe they have like 3 other bands that they've already, maybe there's one touring band and 2 other locals, and then they figure, oh, maybe Warm Wishes will want to join this bill. So it kind of just works out that way. But yeah.
Yeah, and I actually kind of want to talk about that specific thing, because after ZZ Killme hosted the Communion show in New York last year, which is a show that I also went to, it featured a lot of artists I was familiar with, like Isaac's Bapping and Leave Luke Alone. So I knew that I should probably pay attention to shows that he was hosting in the future. And in for like October of that year, he hosted like a Halloween rave that
Oh
you were
yeah.
actually on the lineup for. I know that show didn't exactly go to plan, like how everything was supposed to go because it got shut
Yeah.
down.
Well, I mean, it didn't go to plan, but nothing ever goes exactly to plan,
Yeah.
right? But I got um there was some I honestly don't know exactly what ended up happening, but there was something having to do with the person who owned the venue had some warrant out, and so it
Yeah.
was shut down by the police. But it was just hilarious because it was a Halloween show, and so our whole band was dressed up like the characters from South Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we were literally like playing as the police came, and so like I feel like me and Hazel like slowly, like maybe awkwardly stepped off of stage, but Adrian is just there like dressed up as Kenny from South Park, and like all the videos of like the police coming and like arresting this person or whatever, you could just see our drummer in the back dressed up as Kenny, and I just always thought that was very silly.
Yeah. But even though that show didn't go to plan, you're now on the lineup for Camera Sonora. And I decided, you know what? I knew about Warm Wishes before, but I hadn't actually checked y'all out. So I decided, for this, I had to do my due diligence to actually, listen to all of y'all stuff. And I've interviewed a lot of artists on here that like have had a very like DIY kind of like lo-fi aesthetic to their sound, like Orange Cake Mix, Porcelain, and like Ghost 2TB, for example. And once I checked out y'all stuff, I was just like immediately in love. Especially your voice is like super unique and cool to me.
I really appreciate that. Like and seriously, like anybody listening to anything that I've made is still just something that is like and enjoying it, and then like maybe wanting to listen to it again is something that's still like kind of hard for me to comprehend.
No, I was going back to y'all's albums like a bunch during this, just like because I was listening to everyone's like music like to prep for these, but like I find myself going back to it just because I wanted to listen to it more. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's kind of maybe not why, but it definitely is a benefit to how short a lot of songs are that I feel like I want to listen again right away.
Yeah, no, exactly. But your music feels very like human to me, and like I don't know how you describe your music, but it's definitely kind of like in that like emo realm, like a little bit in terms of like how you do your vocals. So I was interested in like how you initially got into making music, and then I guess just who your influences are for it as well.
That's a good question. Definitely something that I thought about a little bit before joining this call. But it's hard to really pinpoint because like music is just like such a part of my life. Like I grew up listening to classic rock. Like both my parents are boomers and into like just have been into music for so long. But I think really probably when I started to get into making music was when I was a teenager, and I discovered like online communities of DIY music, especially artists like Cave Town, and then also like people who was influenced by like Alex G, just like people who without any label just created so much music and just put it out there, and basically not necessarily playing the numbers game, because I think they just I think as a young person also you can just, if you aren't limiting yourself, you can have so much creative output. And I really admire artists like that who produce themselves and do it all without a label. And I guess it kind of just showed me that like that was possible, because like growing up on Long Island, even with a certain level of privilege, it's just is still somewhat unimaginable. And watching like, I don't know, I grew up watching like biopics of like rock and roll musicians, and there's always like someone, like gets their big break or something, or they get signed to a record label, and that's just so like unrealistic. And so yeah, definitely artists like that who produce their own music. Otherwise, I grew up listening to a lot of like musical theater. I definitely think storytelling is very important in music, and I really respect also artists who are able to take aspects of musical theater and put it more into like a rock perspective. I really they're maybe a bit divisive in certain like emo circles, but I've always been a really big fan of the band 21 Pilots, just because like so committed to like telling a story for the past like 10 years. And so yeah, I don't know, that's a couple of my influences, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Boy Scout, but that also reminded me Like your stuff reminded me of their stuff. If you're familiar with them,
Never heard of it, but I definitely check that out.
I think it's just the way that y'all write chords was like very similar to me. Cause like I grew up listening to them, so like immediately I heard your stuff. I was like, oh, this is awesome because it just reminded me so much of that.
That's cool. I appreciate that. Another comparison that I got one time that way before I ever like heard of them, like this, like my first time hearing of this band was when someone compared my music to them, which is kind of funny considering all my music is pretty much just recorded by me, and
Mm-hmm.
this band is a collective of a whole bunch of people. But the Apples in Stereo, I don't know if you've
Yeah,
ever
I'm not
heard of them.
familiar, but
They're pretty cool. They're a collective of I think the guy behind like Neutral Milk Hotel is in there, and like a couple of people from like his sort of circle that he was involved in.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, how did you get to where Warm Wishes is now? Because like I know you had like a soul project before that was like it was like snowing on Sunday or like something like that. You had before
Yeah,
Warm
Snow
Wishes.
on Sun.
Yeah,
That's funny that you mentioned. How did you hear about that?
I have my ways.
That's funny. Yeah, every like once in a blue moon, someone will mention that band to me, and it's just so funny because like I was passionate about it at the time, but I just never I kind of left it behind me because yeah, it was always meant to be a band, but I just was never able to find people around me who were as interested in like actually creating music as I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had all these songs written and I wanted to play like backyard concerts or like play at like I don't know like football in high school or something. Not that I ever played at a football game. I don't know, weird example, but anyways, there was this guy. I won't get into too many details, but basically, there's this guy that I knew at my school who I my family's Greek. We're like not that religious, but we like I feel like all Greek people kind of know each other through the church somehow. And so I honestly could not tell you how I met this guy, but I knew that he played the drums and yeah, he was just like one of these people who is like oddly obsessed with like how we were gonna make money with every little thing,
Mm-hmm.
which was very silly because we were just playing like parties in my
Yeah.
backyard. Especially like one time we did a charity show and like like it was always meant to be a charity show. But at some point he like saw someone handing me money and he was like he made a big fuss about it. He was because he thought that like I was like taking ticket sales or something. And I was like, please no. But yeah, so anyways, that's just I maybe honestly would have kept the Snow on Sunday name longer, but when I graduated high school and wanted to keep making music and I knew I wanted to do it by myself, I just like had a feeling like he would have something to say about it if I like continued under Snow on Sunday.
Yeah.
Not he was ever even really like a big part of it, but I don't know. It was just it sometimes it's nice to have a fresh start anyways. So yeah, Warm Wishes is basically just post high school, I guess.
Yeah. So like, when you make a Warm Wishes song, are you the main person that's like doing everything for it for like the Bandcamp upload and then live you all play it together? Is that how it works?
Yeah, pretty much. I pretty much just with the exception of like some of our newer songs, um Hazel plays the bass on and like one or two older songs there might be like Adrian or Elijah like talking or something in the background. But yeah, for the most part it's me recording everything and like producing everything. And then yeah, live typically the full band is me playing guitar and singing, Elijah playing guitar, Adrian playing some kind of drums, and Hazel playing bass and singing. But we've had all sorts of formations.
Yeah. Do you think you want to have like more of the members contributing to production like in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tricky for me because I have always made music pretty much just by myself. Other than like being in choir and stuff and collaborating with people in that regard, I've never, except for like a few odd exceptions, I've never really collaborated with other people on music. And it's something that I've been trying to do more recently. I've been for the past like almost like a year now, I've been trying to put together a split project with my friend Mallard Buscott, but we just we're both so used to making music on our own that it's a daunting challenge. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, collaboration is really like such a beautiful thing. So I definitely want to include more friends in the recording, even more than just Adrian and Elijah and Hazel. But yeah, when it comes to Warm Wishes songs, at the very least, going forward, it's pretty much always going to be at least me and Hazel on the
Yeah.
recording.
I was also curious because I saw that you were in choir like before we started doing this. And you definitely like, I feel like the voice that you have and the way you sing definitely doesn't fit into that. So like, how did being in choir like affect like your vocals?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because, and you know, we actually have and maybe I shouldn't spoil it, but there's on a song that I'm working on, I have a sample on there that's from this tape that I found at the thrift store that's like it's like vocal warm-ups for like good Christians
Mm-hmm.
basically. It's like how to sing like the godly way or whatever. And I like at one point it says in no way will using proper technique like destroy your ability to have like your own personal style, which
Mm-hmm.
is something that I really agree with. And I think any good voice teacher will teach. But also then in that sample, it then says, unless your personal style is screaming at the top of your voice, which is silly because that is what I do sometimes. But yeah, it was definitely strange being in like choir and musical theater growing up, partially from having a unique voice, but also just being like very short. I'm like 5'3", and like I never like really fit any particular roles.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of singing in a choir, I honestly singing in choir is probably where some of my like best memories in life are from, because it really showed me the impact of making music with other people, which ultimately is like sort of the ethos of Warm Wishes. Like at the end of the day, even if I'm not, if the other members aren't actually recording on the songs, none of it would happen without any of them, because just so much of the music is about like the support that I have from my friends,
Mm-hmm.
people around me. And yeah, I was just gonna say that I have been really intending for a while to join a community choir again, because it's like I just preach that like that singing is medicine and something that like everybody should do.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. And when it comes to forming like Warm Wishes, the like I guess the live performance aspect, like how did you meet all the members?
Well, it happened like pretty much as naturally as it possibly could have, because Adrian, first of all, was just my roommate, and he didn't play drums when we started the band, but I kind of just like, our music is super simple, and I basically just like showed him what to do. And like props to him, because he like is like a friggin' chameleon, like he can adapt to whatever. And then Elijah, he wasn't our roommate, but he like basically was, because he just like didn't like any of his roommates, and so he would be in our room every single day. And so we would just, and this is freshman year I'm talking about, and so we would just like play like, I don't know, like Mom Jean's songs and like car seat headrest stuff on the guitar together. And then Hazel, our bassist, when the band first started, we weren't technically dating, but it happened like very soon after the band
Mm-hmm.
started. Basically, yeah, basically I was putting out music by myself, and we were asked to play a show, and I had like the three people closest to me that I knew would want to play music with me, and that's how the band formed. And it just like hasn't it's just like worked out since.
That's so sweet. Plus, I saw that you are doing like dorm shows and stuff too, which is like so cool. Because I feel like when
Oh
you really want
yeah,
to perform, you
that's
just find
something.
a way, like no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like so much of, because we just love performing music, and especially the community aspect of it too. I love a house show or like a dorm show more than anything, because I can just have like total control over the vibe. And
Mm-hmm.
like I have fun at like shows at like bars and stuff, but it's much more I much prefer like a show where there's like, I don't know, like a TV setup where people can play like Mario Golf or
Yeah.
something. Like it's just so nice when it feels like everybody's like just hanging out.
Yeah, I guess actually speaking of that, so there's like a big uniting factor on all the artists I interview on here because most of them are very online based. Like they'll hop in Discord calls to like make music with their friends. They'll play like URL Fest instead of like live shows. And generally they just don't have a big reach into the real world with their music. Although that has been changing a bit over the last year as more of them started to perform live. But I feel like Warm Wishes is very different than like pretty much any artist I've talked to on here because y'all are very involved in your local scene. You're constantly playing shows. And it's like very involved in your local community. So what do you think is so important about participating in your local scene? And I guess just some favorite memories of like performing live also.
Yeah, that's a good question. And also like very interesting to think about because we really started out not necessarily online, but when we started to gain like any sort of traction, it was like when I would be posting on TikTok, and we had like, I don't know, maybe we got up to like 2,000 followers or something on there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a lot, but like the growth was like pretty substantial, and that was like when our music was still on Spotify and stuff. So that's just a very different era. But honestly, I just like got tired of posting online, and I have a lot of like gender dysphoria and like issues with my, not necessarily appearance, but more so like how I'm perceived. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to just kind of have our online presence be like either just like when we're playing a show or when we have music coming out. So I guess that's almost made it so we've had to focus more so on in-person interaction and shows. But yeah, it really is so important for me as somebody who struggles with mental health stuff and has like a certain degree of social anxiety, because like there's quite a few friends that, I mean, it's unfortunate, but like I only really end up seeing them at shows. And otherwise, like I really just can't imagine what my social life would be without shows, because it's just like what I like to do, I guess. It's really I don't drink, so like I'm not going out to bars. I don't really have
Yeah.
money to be going to like big festivals or anything. So yeah, this is like, I'm really grateful to have that community. And yeah, in terms of memories playing shows, this is almost like a whole can of worms that I could open here, but I'll stay like somewhat on the surface level and just shout out my friend Maria, because I've had two different shows at her house for my birthday, and there's been like, it really is just as simple as that. Like, she is a nice person and cares about like the bands being compensated and cares about like having an accepting environment, and also most importantly not booking bills that are like six bands that are all the same genre and all like this, like the same looking like type of like white straight guy. um and it's so funny because like her house, it's not a venue. It depends on how you define venue, because like at this point so many shows have happened there, but like it's really just like one happened and then another happened and then it just has kept going. And so yeah, I would definitely say one of those birthday shows that I've had at her house are just so much fun. Just like the sense of community to be able to ask four other bands that not only am I like a fan of, but am fortunate enough to like be friends with, to say like, hey, will you play at my birthday party? Like, I don't know, it just feels cool. Like it makes me feel like I'm like a little kid almost. And like it's like an awesome like present, I guess. But yeah, and then it's just even cooler to be able to like have the experience of putting on a show and having the other bands also have a good time, because I know that's like not all that common, especially on Long Island, for bands to be like 100% satisfied with playing at a venue. And I feel like I can pretty safely say that any show I've put together, nobody's been like, I don't know, robbed or anything.
Yeah, I know you play with like Your Arms Are My Cocoon also, right? Like you've done some pretty crazy shows, I feel like.
Yeah, that was actually one of the craziest days of my life. Yeah, playing with a band that like I've been a fan of since I was in high school was just so surreal and crazy. I feel like I just had to like smoke so much weed that I felt somewhat normal about it. But yeah, and that was all thanks to the band Oolong, who I'm also like fortunate enough to be able to say that we're friends with and have played quite a few shows with. And like, yeah, it's just such an honor that I believe how it went down is that like, because I don't think like I don't think that Your Arms Are My Cocoon like really know who we are at all. Like I think they maybe enjoyed themselves at our set, but I honestly have no idea. But I'm sure what happened is that they asked Oolong like, do you know any other bands in the area? And Oolong was kind enough to suggest us. And so yeah, that's something that I'll remember like forever. I have Polaroids from that show like on my fridge and stuff.
Yeah, I saw that y'all play with Godfuck also. It's like my friends play the show with them too, so it's just funny how like interconnected I feel like the DIY scenes can all like be because he's based in Maryland. He still play with them.
Yeah, it's so funny. It happens so much when I meet someone new in the scene, and then I realize that we have played with the same band at some point.
Yeah, and like I guess what would you say to someone that like wants to get involved with your team and maybe is like nervous to like put themselves out there?
That's a really good question, because I've definitely been in that position. Maybe not being nervous to put myself out there, because it's strange how these things can coincide. But as much as I have like a social anxiety, I also consider myself an extrovert and someone that like lives to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what's so tough is just like finding opportunities to play and finding other people that are as interested in the music that you want to make as you are. And unfortunately, I don't know if I have a good answer. I think it's really tough and takes a lot of luck, but I guess persistence would be the only thing that I could really like solidly advocate for, because I think if you keep working on music and you keep and you don't let your passion die down just because you may not have the opportunities right now, hopefully something will come.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of asking that question for me because that's kind of where I've been at recently, admittedly. Because like I go to college in Austin, so there's a very like prevalent like scene over there. And
Yeah.
I don't think my stuff necessarily like fits into that, but I want to get more involved, even if it's just going to shows. But I don't know. There are like
Well,
little parties. I'm not really into that kind of stuff, so it's like I don't even know where I'd begin with something like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, to that, I would definitely say like just attend shows, and like even yeah, so often bands will be like happy to talk to you afterwards, or even like talking to the guy that's doing sound, or like the guy at the working doors or something, because that's really how Hazel and I like became more involved in the scene, was like meeting people who book shows and being like, can I like work for you?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, to the other thing that you said about like being worried that your music may not fit the particular vibes, that's something that Hazel and I talk about a lot, is that we feel like very strongly that people who book shows, or I don't know who it is, but somebody is enforcing the idea that like a show needs to be every band on the bill, or every artist needs to be in the same genre. And I just don't think that I don't think it's true at all. I don't think they even need to be like related. I think if anything, like I don't know, maybe I particularly have like eclectic tastes, but I think it can work very well to have like an electronic musician, like something like experimental or like ambient to like open up a show, and then like I don't know, have a folk duo play second, and then have like an emo band play. Like I don't think there's anything really wrong about that. And I think maybe some bands would decline playing with someone else because they're not close enough in genre, but I think if you find the right like cool open-minded people, generally I would say that what your music sounds like matters a lot less than like your attitude towards it.
Yeah. I think it does really depend though, because like there's this one duo I've talked to called Sarah Center, which is this like Australian electronic group. And it's only they used to get booked for like punk shows, and nobody there liked their sets because nobody was trying to listen to their kind of music at those shows. So it's like they had to kind of
Yeah.
start making their own to even get like an audience that was like palatable for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I guess my advice ultimately can only be from like my own unique specific experience, and I think we're very lucky, but also it is on purpose in the messaging of our music and everything that people who like Warm Wishes, I think, tend to be pretty open-minded
Mm-hmm.
people who are like happy to hear new things. And so yeah, we are fortunate in that sense that we can fit on a lot of different types of bills.
Yeah, I do think also you kind of have to just like create your own vibe sometimes.
Hmm.
Like there's some people I've talked to here that are all they're in this small town like California, and they all make like industrial rap, which is not like a thing over there, but they just kind of made their own thing from that, and now there's a local scene there for it because of that. So like,
It's really like so beautiful how that happens, especially like as someone who's a fan of a certain type of music, like you just like would never imagine that you would be able to find a community, but then like you can. That is really cool.
yeah, I think there always is. You just kind of have to pave the way for it sometimes. That might be
Yeah.
what I have to do a little bit.
Hmm. Totally.
Yeah. Moving on though. So the way I wrote this question doesn't entirely work because it's only you here right now, but I've done a few group interviews now where it'll be artists that work with other artists a lot. So there's been some with like these two rappers, J. Cole Driver and Payne McKnight, who like work together a lot. And then Sarah Center, who I mentioned before. And I really love doing those interviews because I think it highlights not only their relationship as like collaborators, but also just like as friends, right? So I guess I was curious, like, what are some of your fondest memories like with the other members of Warm Wishes?
I love that question. I would say, honestly, like one thing comes to my mind like very immediately is on our first album, Cry Right Now, I Dare You, the picture was taken by our roommate Noah, and it's like us like hanging out in the dorm, like eating Chinese food. And that album I recorded over like maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. It was like for the most part, it was a very like quick emotional experience
Mm-hmm.
making that album because it was very much just like something bad happened to me, and I like that was the only way I could get it out. I was much less like medicated for my mental health issues at that time too, so I really like needed an outlet. But most of that album was recorded in that living room that that picture was taken in, and it was really just like me, like for the most part, like with my laptop, like sometimes using a microphone, sometimes just like using my laptop mic, and like with headphones, and like my roommates would just like be in the background, like I don't know, like doing dishes or like playing video games or
Mm-hmm.
something. So there's a couple points in that album where if I listen really closely, or sometimes not even listen closely, sometimes it's more prominent where I can, like, if I really try to think, I can like put myself in that moment and think like Adrian was like behind me and to the right, like I don't know, like opening an envelope for something that he got in the mail or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just really like encapsulates what so much of what I want my music to be about is like the small like the best way I can put it is that like every single time I go back and listen to an older song and I find something in it that like something stands out to me that I really love, it's always something that was unintentional and something that was really small. And so because it always has that like sort of personal touch. So yeah, it's a very like not climactic or like eventful memory, but it's just like the experience of making that album is very special.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the result of it being such like a bedroomy project, the like One Wishes as a project, where it's just
Yeah,
like you
absolutely.
can kind of feel the room it was recorded in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And I that is very much intentional because like I think a lot of my music also I want it to be somewhat of like a journal or a time capsule in the sense of like I will never be in my freshman year of college again, but like I can even though as you could probably tell from the narrative of the album, it's maybe wasn't the best experience of
Mm-hmm.
my life. It really is like it's just like a really cool and unique thing that I can listen back and almost feel like I'm there.
Yeah, and how would you say like being collaborators is like I guess like affected your friendship? Like how would you say that works?
You know, we all are very busy people and very like scramble brained people. And so even like being roommates, even being in a band together, like it can be tough to like find time to hang out, especially
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of us are which I mean is something that we all bond over, but we all sometimes may have tendencies to like isolate or just like have trouble maybe reaching out. And so it is like really like such a blessing to be in a band because it really is like something in between like being friends and like being family because like it's very similar to the relationship that I have with some of my like childhood best friends where it's like if we don't go a couple weeks without talking it's like I know there's no doubt in my mind that like everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that part is amazing because we've all just like agreed to be creative together. But then on top of it, it's just nice that, like I said, it's really tough to like make plans to all get together. That I kind of almost have an excuse, call it like band practice to
Yeah.
have all my friends hang out with me. And so, yeah, that's really nice to just like have a reason to all get together.
Yeah, I had that with my friends too. Because like I feel like especially when everyone gets busier, it's just like a routine. It's kind of hard to get into that. So there's one friend where, like he always comes with me to get my allergy shot, and it's like
That's
that's just like a
cool.
little thing we do, and there's like no reason
That's
for
really
it,
sweet.
but like we just go do that together, and we don't really talk or hang out outside of that. That's like our
Oh,
thing, and we make it work because of that.
that's awesome.
So
Yeah, and that just makes a friendship so strong to just having something that like you have to do together. And yeah, especially because like yeah, when it gets to like final season and stuff, I just think we would all, and no matter how good it would be for our mental health to like take a break and hang out, I think we would all unfortunately end up like isolating and being like, oh, I'm too busy, like we can't hang out all day today. But if we have a show in 2 days, then there's really no other option. And
yeah,
so it's for someone with like some antisocial tendencies, it's really it's a blessing.
yeah. I was also curious when it comes to like balancing like school and music, because like you're doing shows, which is like a very time consuming process. So like, how does balancing that work?
It's almost impossible. um for myself, it's okay because I'm fortunate enough to be able to take like a pretty light course load. I've kind of come to the conclusion that like stressing myself out by like filling up my schedule as much as I can is like not gonna do anybody good. So on my own, I think I can manage music and school just fine. The difficulty largely is the fact that Adrian and Elijah are both computer science majors,
Oh
which,
yeah,
which means there's just no time ever. And so that's just why we always have to adapt. And we have so many shows where instead of Adrian playing drums, we'll have like drum tracks coming out of a like CD player that we have, or
Like a tambourine or something. I saw that in the video.
oh yeah, yeah, and Adrian plays the tambourine sometimes, or sometimes if I know a friend is going to be coming to the show, I'll be like, hey, like, do you want to play tambourine for us? And sometimes they'll be like, I've never played the tambourine before in my life, but I'll give it a try. And I'm like, perfect. But but yeah, balancing school and music, it's it's tough, but we do it because we have to.
Yeah. Would you say that's why Warm Wishes like lineup is so like I guess it's kind of like inconsistent because I looked at like through your highlights and like it's different people at each show performing pretty much.
Yeah, it's basically like you either get like 100%, which is Adrian, me, Hazel, Adrian, and Elijah, or you get 70%, which would be without Adrian, or you get 50%, which is with just me and Hazel, or very rarely you'll get the 25%, which is just me. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, definitely, because it's just like when your bandmates are political science majors, I mean, not political science, I'm a political science major. When your roommates are computer science majors, I really don't understand. It seems like every other week it's either midterms or finals.
Yeah.
Like the semester starts and then a week later, I feel like I'm hearing like we have midterms next week. And it's like, what happened? I don't think we're in the middle. I thought we were in the first like 5% of the semester, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you think there's like pressure on you also since like it seems like from what you're saying like you have to be there at the show no matter what. Like the band kind of rides on you in a way because it's your project first and foremost.
Yeah, well, ultimately I am the band leader. At least like at least like me and Hazel are kind of like the core of the band. And so a lot of the times it's like I don't think I particularly feel pressure because it's totally all like put on by myself. Like we're
Yeah.
never gonna play a show unless I agree to it. Whereas with Adrian and Elijah, it's like usually we try to ask them before we agree to a show. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, sometimes it's like, hey, by the way, we have a show next month. And so there's pros and cons, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And like I have OCD too, so like any way that I can like have control over a situation, it makes me happy. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to being the band's leader and being in charge, it's nice, especially because I think that I'm a fair leader. I think that I'm very I don't know, we don't get into fights or
Yeah.
anything.
No, I wouldn't think so. Like y'all's vibe is so like cozy. If y'all are arguing, that'd be like so weird.
Yeah, it's I appreciate that. It's not that things don't ever get heated, not even heated, but just
Just
like
disagreements.
yeah, I mean life happens. Like we everyone has like I don't know, forgotten something at one time or another, including me. And so it's like I guess we always hold each other accountable though. So it's like if one of us is like late to rehearsal or something, it's not going to be an argument because like whoever was late has already apologized and we've already moved on
Yeah.
usually.
I guess speaking of moving on, so moving on to the next question that I have here. While I was researching for this interview, I listened through everything that you had in your Bandcamp, which included the split EP that you had with Iris Belinsky. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Which I really enjoyed, and one of my favorite songs was the outro track "New Year's Eve." And for me, New Year's Eve was always a time where you just kind of reflect on like the year as a whole, and like think about how I did, what I could be doing better. And I kind of set some goals, not even resolutions, but just like goals for like the next year of like what I think I could be doing differently. So I guess I was curious for you, like what are some goals that you set for yourself over the years, whether it's just like a personal goal or something related to your music?
That's a really good question. And I mean, first of all, I just want to say it's not like directly related to the question, but I just love Iris Belinsky so
Mm-hmm.
much. That project is so cool to do. And also the song New Year's Eve, I also just I feel like somewhere in me I always had to write a song called New Year's Eve because one of my favorite songs of all time is New Year's Eve by Sydney Gish. And I don't know, it's just special to me. But yeah, goals. for myself, I always just want to at least put out one thing a year. Maybe that's a low bar to set, but I think as long as I'm expressing myself, that's all I can really ask myself for. I mean, I'm still in school, so maybe I'll try to like have some more clear goals once that happens. But really, I just want to make music that I like and express myself and have fun.
Hmm. I mean, those are good goals. And in terms of anything like maybe just you as a person, like not related to your music that you've tried to like work on or like work towards.
I think trying to I'm always trying to be a better listener. And I just think communication is like the most important thing in the whole world. And I think that I like don't know everything. And so it can do me a lot of good to listen to other people. And I just think it's so important to like, no matter like what personal struggles I'm having and like what's going on in my own life, to like understand that everybody is dealing with stuff and to empathize with people, I
Hmm.
guess. I don't know. That's a convoluted answer, but I tried my best.
No, I get it though, because some people it can be hard to like. It's almost like you're waiting to talk rather than like to listen, right?
Yeah, and like I think also as somebody with so much anxiety, it's like, yeah, I can just be more caught up in how I'm perceived than how well I'm actually listening to someone else. And I think that's something that is a good goal to work towards.
Hmm. I think for me, I've kind of had the flip side of that where I've never been the most like well spoken person, so I've always kind of like put myself in the background more. I've been trying to
Mm-hmm.
make myself like be more confident, like put myself out there more. Even these, like doing these, is kind of like help with that because I have to be like, you're gonna do and talk to someone that you don't know for like over an hour, and that's like a lot. But I think it's good to
Yeah,
help me like practice that. So
yeah, that's a good goal to set for yourself. Absolutely. I think that's a cool way to achieve it too. Cause yeah, I feel like people are always like so much scarier like before you just like talk to them for like
yeah,
2 and then you realize that they're a person and it like chills out so much.
yeah. I just think like I guess overcoming anxiety too, because like I struggle with that a lot as well, and it's just like the issue is always just doing the thing. Because once I start doing it, it always goes away. But it's just like getting to that point. It's always the hard part for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. To get back to your music though, so when I was listening through your Bandcamp to research for this interview, I was immediately drawn towards your most recent album. I mean, I love you each time I hold your hand. Not only because I thought the title was really sweet, but the cover was really cute as well. So I was like, you know what? For a first impression, I gotta check this one out. And everything I've heard from you has just been very just like comforting to me as of late. And I love to get to know like I guess just what you put into your projects. Like, what was the process of working on the album like?
That's what I appreciate that you use the word comforting because that's really like what I strive for is that like I want our music to be almost like a hug or like something that like can be like a something to go back to, like an anchor or a rock
Yeah.
almost. But so yeah, that album is really much very much the first word I want to use is like a vent, but more so like a diary.
Mm-hmm.
Um in the sense of like each song is very much about like how I felt in a very specific moment. And I think pretty much every one of these songs was written in like a very short period of time. And like the production is a separate thing that maybe takes longer, but the with like the actual songwriting for pretty much all of these songs is very much like I was feeling an emotion, and so I like sat down with my guitar to almost like figure it out. And then each of the songs, production wise, I really just like wanted to find as many like sounds that I thought were cool and somewhat unique but also like drawing from music that I like. And with that album in particular, I really like didn't worry too much about how all the songs were going to fit together.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much recorded them all like very separately, like through different like ways too, like whether it's through like my like little tape deck or like on GarageBand or whatever. But once I had like those what is it, 10 songs? Yeah, once I had those 10 songs together, I just like put them into my iTunes and like drag them around. And very quickly I was like, wow, this is like a structure that makes a whole lot of sense for an album. And so it really like just pieced together in that way. And I guess that's something that I can say for a lot of my music is that a lot of the time, one of my favorite parts of making music is that point when I've made a bunch of songs and then I can put them together into an album because I'm almost always like super surprised at the fact that it like sounds like an album. Because I feel like people get the idea in their head that in order to create a project, you need to like have a plan ahead of time of like what the vibe you want is and like what you want the whole thing to sound like. And I think really, as long as you have like a similar attitude going into making all the songs, and I mean, especially helped in my case that it was me recording all the instruments and doing it in such a short time that it just came together in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think for albums, though, it's all with the sequencing. Because, like, as long
Mm,
as it makes sense with how it flows, the rest of it doesn't really matter. At least to me.
yeah, it's really sometimes I'll listen to albums from artists that I really like and I'll not be thinking about it actively, but then afterwards I'll realize like there was like a crazy variety of like genres in this album, but somehow I never like it never felt jarring. Like 21 Pilots is really good at that, or
Mm-hmm.
like somehow they fit freaking just every genre and more into one album and it like flows. I mean, some people don't like it, but
I
I
mean, like,
certainly
I think
do.
we have the consistent, like, artist voice, though it works because it's still, like, their vision just being translated in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's so weird how that works because like even in like an instrumental track, like you can tell that it's like a lot of the times you can tell that it's a particular artist, like even
Yeah.
without voice, or even if it's not an instrumentation that's typical of them. Like Alex G's recent album, God Save the Animals. It's like so different from his other music in the sense that like so much of it, like he came up doing like DIY, like self-recorded stuff in like GarageBand or like Logic and whatever. And then now he's and like on his laptop or whatever, and now he's recording in studios. And even though audibly it sounds very different, like the songwriting and the actual like emotion behind it is so clearly Alex G. And like that's so cool to me.
Yeah. I know I mentioned Orange Cake Mix like early in the interview, and I got to help him last year, like make a sort of like compilation of his like demos because he's been releasing music for like 30 years at this point. So it's like he had like I think like over 800 demos on his Bandcamp, and like even though they were all from like different years, I managed to sequence them into like one thing that I think when you listen to it, it feels like it was meant to be together the whole time, even though they
That's
were all from
awesome.
like different things. I feel like the sequencing is a big aspect of it too.
Yeah, totally. That's really interesting. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. But also for the album, like, was there like a meaning or like a message that you had like behind it?
Hmm.
'Cause I feel like it's a very specific like album title. So like,
Yeah. It's hard to I guess it's the kind of thing that's pretty hard to put into words, which is almost like why I make music. Cause yeah, it is so much less of like a specific message and more of like a particular feeling. Cause almost every song I write is about a particular person. That like that subject might
mm-hmm.
change in each song, but it's always it's always very personal, and I just like have so much like love and appreciation for the people around me, and I feel like I may not always be the best at displaying that, and so that's ultimately like where the title comes from,
Mm,
is like, like I'm showing my appreciation without like verbally saying it, and like especially like the song Good Friends, I feel like encapsulates that, because it's like before I wrote that song, I just had this like overwhelming feeling, which is something that I feel a lot, which is just like I have so many friends that I've made over the years that it's just impossible to keep up with all of
yeah.
them. And it's like see how they're doing as much as I wish that I could. And so that just like, I guess ultimately, honestly, like I hope any of the friends that like I haven't gotten to speak to in a while, like eventually hear that song and realize, oh, Georgie was just busy or something.
Yeah, but also like again, like if y'all are really friends, like you were saying earlier, like you can pop back in whenever and feel like no time has passed at all. So
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a few friends like that, and that's also a feeling that I love to solidify or encapsulate in my music, is like the friends that I have that I just like will always have.
yeah, I was also curious about the cover because I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like a lot of your covers like seem like you were the one that drew them, but this one it says someone else drew the cover.
Yeah, so my friend Axel made that art. Yeah, for the most part, I guess I have done the art for pretty much all of the Warm Wishes albums. Well, let's see. Actually, the first EP was a picture of my sister's dog that I took. The first album was by my roommate Noah. And then the second album actually was by an artist called Spicy Soda, who I know from Instagram. But yeah, for the most part, the art is done by me. And I just I won't get too into it, but I'm definitely involved in like furry and like
Mm-hmm.
therian communities online. Especially as a non-binary person, I find a lot of and somebody on the spectrum and all this stuff. I find a lot of affinity with animals, and I find a lot of like solace in a community of people who's largely based around like such like wholesome and nice things. And so yeah, most of the art is depictions of essentially like the band's like personas, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's like very loose, but typically I'm a cat and Hazel is a dog, and then Adrian is the bunny and Elijah is a fox. And so we try to work that in when we can. And yeah, it's like one of my favorite things in the world, like being able to talk to artists from like anywhere in the world, and maybe they appreciate our music and as much as I like love their art, and we can do something together.
Yeah, because like was there like a direction you gave the artist like to do that cover?
I'm really good friends with Axel, so just like through the internet, I've been like such a fan of their art for a long time. So largely I think they just really like understand me and understand like what I want to convey with the art. Yeah, I think pretty much all that I said to them was like to have the dog and the cat holding hands. And maybe I said like something about them being in New York. I can't remember. But yeah, they just totally nailed it. There was actually one version of the art, I guess like a not a sketch, but basically just like a version that they did before they ended up doing this version, which is pretty awesome also, which might end up being like, I don't know, if I do like I don't know. It'll end up somewhere. I'm
Yeah.
very much archivist, but yeah, that was a really cool experience making that art, because like especially that art for that album, I feel like people really associate with our band because it really just does. It just represents us so well. I love it so much, especially like the I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't pinpoint it.
No, I get it. It fits the vibe of like what you want to like exude from your music. So I get it. And if I had to highlight like specific tracks I like on it, I think like "What to Do" is probably my favorite off the album.
Thank you. That song and what's the other one? Comfort and Locked Doors.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those I was very much listening to like so much Duster at the time, and like I want to make something like half as good as Stratosphere by Duster one day. And so that was sort of like my attempt at making something like close to that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. For me, like What to Do felt very like Boy Scott-esque to me, because their music always feels like driving.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're in a car. And that song like felt like that to me also. So that was like a big reason
That's
for
cool.
why it felt my favorite. Yeah, I feel like it's a very like night album also though.
Mm-hmm. Either I think our music is best listened to either at night or like really early in the morning, like the
Mm-hmm.
sun.
Yeah.
But that's also, maybe I'm just biased because those are the times that I like to be up and listening to music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of that album, I love the whole thing front to back. But given that it was the first thing that I listened to from you guys, I was pretty curious about what it would sound like going into it. So I was kind of hoping that it'd make like a good first impression. And I heard that intro track Confidence. I went, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna like this, because it was immediately just like all things I really love about music. The track's called Confidence, though, right? I think having confidence is super important as an artist, whether it's in your vocal delivery, your stage presence when you're performing, and also just being able to like believe in yourself and your work. So, given that song's title, what are times do you feel like confident? I guess like sometimes that you felt confident.
I never really thought about it so much. But it is funny that Confident is the first song on that album, because confidence is like, the idea of confidence is such like an important thing for Warm Wishes, in the sense that like I don't think I would have nearly the same confidence to continue making music and performing if it weren't for my bandmates, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly Hazel. Because like I enjoy performing by myself, and it's definitely like a thrill, but it's just the most comforting thing to like be on stage, and maybe I have a little bit of worry about how it's going to go, and like I look to my left and Hazel is always going to be there. And even just like not just in regards to performing, but recording music, like having someone in Hazel who I can always send my demos to, and she's just like, first of all, I'm pretty sure she'll always be honest with me, but also she is always like so supportive and genuinely like likes what I do, that and expresses that to me,
Mm-hmm.
that it really, I I'm sure I would still be making music, but I would not have made as much music as I have. Cause yeah, that's the thing. Like, as long as I know that like at least one person is gonna like give it a fair shot and listen to it. And that's so important.
I think that's so true, though, especially like even outside of music, just like have people that you feel comfortable with, like no matter where you are. Like I would feel my best when I'm with like people that I know like support me.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, especially as a trans person, like it's hard to find some like people who are like so genuinely supportive of you and like actually understand.
Mm-hmm. It seems like you build a very solid like community like around yourself, both in just in terms of like your life, also like what you like involve yourself with too. So
Yeah, I try.
yeah, that's great though. So I think is great is that in each interview, I don't know if you know this, but I have a segment in each one where I play rock paper scissors with the guests that I have on,
Cool.
and I'm currently on a 3-person winning streak, so I'm trying to keep it going because I
Oh
beat
my
FireOS XP in the last interview. So I was wondering if you'd like to play rock paper scissors with me. Best 2 out of 3.
oh my gosh, yes, but I am a champion.
A
So but
champion. Oh, we'll see you about that then.
how are we gonna do this?
We just close our eyes because it's like the way of the camera, but it'll just be like rock paper scissors shoot and
Okay.
do it. Yeah, rock paper scissors shoot. Ooh,
Oh, dang it,
I'm
dang
off
it, dang it,
one, but
dang
you can still
it,
come
dang
back. You
it.
can still come back. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh,
Ooh.
oh, oh.
Okay. So now we're tied.
I'm ready. I'm
And
ready. I'm
hopefully this
ready.
will be the deciding one.
Serious.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Mmm. Okay.
This is getting very serious. This is
But
I'm
I don't know
really
what you're gonna do though, because like I see the pattern here, but you keep doing it, or you're gonna break from it. I don't know.
oh, I don't
I
know.
don't know. Hmm. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh no.
Oh.
Dang it. My strategy is always just do rock, and I think it's just because like I don't like it takes the least like motion
Hmm.
of my hands.
It's scary though, because like you never know if you're gonna break from it or not.
Yeah, I like that it messes with your mind too.
Yeah, I just had to trust you're gonna keep doing it. So yeah, 4-person winning
Dramatic
streak. Let's
genius.
go. Yeah, I think I've beaten most of the people that are playing at Communion or not Communion, Camera Sonora. That's pretty cool. Because I
We
think
gotta do a life.
a
We gotta do
rematch.
yeah tournament with everyone there.
Yeah, yeah. Although like I very rarely get to a 4-person winning streak, and I've never gotten to 5. So like this next
Um,
one is gonna be like make or break for me. I'm a little nervous.
well, I wish you the best of luck. I feel like since you beat me, you have to beat the next person now. Like, because like I can't lose to a loser. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's true. Yeah, that makes me feel worse. Moving on. So a lot of your music to me feels very present. I think especially due to the bedroomy feel that a lot of your songs have. Because you can, like I said earlier, you can really feel like where you were when you were making that song.
Mhm.
But obviously past experiences help create art as well. And I think this is especially prevalent in your song "I Miss Arizona" off your album "Love Will Save the World If You Let It," which was a personal favorite of mine off that project. So, given that song's title, what are things that you miss?
You know, it's such a common theme in our music, but really so many friends. Funny enough, that friend that moved to Arizona actually moved back to Long
Oh,
Island, and I
really?
ran. Yeah, I randomly ran into them at a show at my friend Maria's house, who I mentioned earlier. So that was so crazy. But yeah, and then I have another friend, Brooke, who I whenever I mention Ithaca in a song, it's talking about my friend Brooke, who
Mm-hmm.
Cornell. Because I like to make fun of Cornell, because like if you like I don't know, if you go to Cornell you can take it is how I feel about it. But yeah, just all my friends who I don't get to see nearly as much, like as we've become adults and people have jobs and school and stuff.
Yeah, I feel the same way because I had a very strong like friend group in high school, and then we all went to different colleges. Like nobody goes to the same college together, so it's been very hard to like keep that going since then.
Yeah, and like now that I'm finishing up with college, it's like now it's all the people from college I won't I like I don't know how I'm gonna keep in touch with, and it just I feel like that's part of life is you keep having the realization that time just keeps going and there's more people that you can only keep up with so many, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I feel like as long as y'all know that like y'all both fuck with each other, like you will see each other again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's been a concern too. 'Cause I even had it freshman year because like my freshman year friend group, like we all was in the same dorms. We saw each other like all the time every day. And
Hmm.
then my sophomore year, everyone had apartments. I was still in a dorm because I didn't feel like I was ready for an apartment yet. So I didn't see them as much just because like they weren't just like living with me. So it was a lot harder.
Yeah, it's like it's college is such a like cool and fun experience in the sense like if you have roommates that you like, that is like in the sense that you can like live with people you're so chill with, but then yeah, afterwards like not having that, it's like what the how am I supposed to have any social interaction if my friends aren't if I'm not literally sharing a wall with my
Yeah.
best like it's very different.
No, I think that's why having shows is important though, because like for you, it's kind of like a third space in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially for like people who are sober and stuff. It's like, where else am I supposed to go?
Yeah, because I have been wondering that because like after college, like I have to find like a place to go meet people because I don't want to just go to work every day and that's it. Like, that's kind of lame.
Yeah.
So
What I love is the Long Island Retro Gaming Convention, which I can't go to this year, but it's like my favorite thing in the whole world. My girlfriend and I go every year because it's
hmm.
like I can't really pick up the camera and show you, but if I could, you could see like all of the video games and plushies that I have around me. It's like a very
Yeah, I
major.
mean, like your Switch is there. I see Pikachu in the background. Like,
Yeah, yeah, several
I'm
Pikachu.
getting the vibe.
Yeah. What do I got Freddy Fazbear right here, you know.
Hmm.
I have a copy of Super Monkey Ball for the GameCube right here. Like it could keep going. I have what's over here? I have what is this?
Yeah, I
The
know Puyo Puyo you like a
Game
lot
Boy with
also.
Kirby's Dream Land 2 in it. I just have everything. But yeah, anyways, what I was saying is that like it's I think that that's totally the best way to find people is through common interest.
Hmm. Yeah, I think something else that I miss, and maybe you can speak to this too, but it's whenever you first start doing something, and there's this kind of like mysterious like magic to it where you don't really know how everything works yet, so you feel like you're all like discovering it for the first time. Cause like when I was first learning piano, that's how I felt, cause I didn't know how anything worked musically, and I felt like I was like inventing chords. That I was just messing around. I
Yeah.
felt so like smart for being able to like do it. And I feel like now that I actually know how everything works, it's like not there like as much anymore.
Yeah, I get that. But I think that's also why like I think the way that I circumvent that is by like always trying to do something like slightly experimental. Like I'm always going to the thrift store and buying some new like old keyboard or like a karaoke machine to like
Mm-hmm.
see how my guitar sounds like plugged into it or something. So I think that aspect of discovery is like super important to me in making music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like if you had to say like a specific like time period of your life that you missed, maybe.
Honestly, like realistically, I don't think I would go back to any time because I'm certainly like happier than I've been in my life. Just
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially just in terms of like just so many things. but but I think like this summer after I graduated high school, before I went to college, there's a couple songs from like the first Warm Wishes EP that are about that summer because it was very much like a time when I had like just recently came out as non-binary, so I like actually sort of felt like I was almost like the person that I was supposed to be, and I lived growing up maybe not like a sheltered life, but just like a very not socially active life. And
Mm-hmm.
so like that was like the first time that I ever went to like a high school party or like just like I don't know, I had more freedom to like hang out with my friends and like I like started smoking weed and stuff. So like I was that if there's any time that I miss or look back fondly at, I guess I would say it's then.
Yeah, I think a similar time for you for me was like the end of my senior year, because like similar to you, like that's when I was starting to open up socially more and like started hanging out with people finally. And I wish it didn't take me as long as it did, but that was such like a good last semester, like because I was able to finally do that.
Yeah, I mean like it's so funny how we don't realize that like our brains are still developing until like it's already happened and then it's like
Yeah,
wow I'm a person now, like I was a child and now I'm a person and it's a little different.
yeah. It's kind of like when you see like old videos or stuff from when you were in like elementary school, because like I remember being that person, but thinking I had like everything going on, and it's like no, but you think that
Yeah,
you know everything when you're like 8, and that's not true.
yeah, I know totally. And then the more you grow, I think the more you grow up the more you think that you know, and then I don't really know when it stops. I think you keep realizing that you don't know things, but then you become overconfident about other things maybe.
Yeah. It's like do you know like that one little graph where it has like the thing and you just like Mount Stupid and then like whatever do you know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh it's like the more you whatever, I'll butcher it, but we both know
Yeah.
the chart.
Yeah. You were talking about like the art for your album earlier. I kind of want to touch on that more because that was another thing that like really like drew me into your work initially was that you had the very consistent like visual identity. And, like I've always been super like drawn to albums that have like hand drawn art like that, especially when it does have like animals on the covers. So I guess like what goes through your mind when you're trying to visualize your art?
A lot of the time I draw a lot from like furry art that I see online. I mean, such a big aspect of that community is I mean, the whole idea of like a persona is generally a version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a way to almost like express how you feel on the inside. And so a lot of the time I feel like that works really well with our music because that's, I mean, ultimately what my music is trying to be is expressing like how I feel in ways that I maybe couldn't otherwise. And so a lot of the time it just works out that like I feel like a cat, Hazel feels like a dog, and so that's what the art ends up being. We do a lot of like collage style stuff because I am like a chronic doodler, especially like in class. I I think most of my professors have to pretty much like usually I'll tell them that I have ADHD because I don't want them to think that I'm just like to be clear, I do have ADHD, but I don't want them to think that like I'm just not paying attention. Because I like almost can't listen if I'm not like drawing something or at least
Mm-hmm.
like drawing spirals. And so I end up with a lot of drawings of cats and dogs that way. And so sometimes I like to cut them up and then like paste or what do you call it? Like tape them onto like different and I have books of like I don't know, like landscaping 101 from like 2004 or something that I take like pictures of flowers from. And so yeah, a lot of my art is very like deeply personal and very much like a journal, and it's kind of just like rather than having a very clear message, it more so is like pure expression.
Yeah, I always like art like that because again, like I was saying with your music earlier, it just feels very just like human. Even though it's animals, like it feels just very human to
Yeah.
me. I was also curious, but I forgot the name of it, but there's that visual album that you have with like Puyo Puyo on the
Oh my
screen,
gosh,
like
I love that you mentioned Puyo Puyo. I love Puyo Puyo
yeah.
more than
Like
anything.
what was your plan with that? Because that's very different than like what you've tried doing before visually.
Yeah, well, so that album's called what's I always give things such long names. Have Sweet Dreams for Me, okay? Because that's something that I say to Hazel a lot. Because she like we both have somewhat complicated relationship with sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But she especially just like doesn't ever get enough sleep and she needs to get more of it. And it's just like such a I can't think of any other word other than like a holy thing for me, like the music that I listen to, like a sacred, it's sacred to me, like
Mm-hmm.
the music that I listen to going to sleep, like Music for Airports by Brian Eno. It's just
Yeah.
like amazing. And then like Duster has I don't think it's technically an album, but it's called On the Air. It's like this performance that they did on a radio station, and I feel like I've listened to that to fall asleep like up to like I don't know, I'm bad at quantifying things, but like maybe like 300 times. Like I just love that album so much. And
Have you heard Thursday Afternoon by Brian Eno?
I don't believe so. I'll have to listen to
That's
it.
my favorite. Like, when I have to write an essay, I was listening to that album to
That's
focus.
cool. I'll check that out. Yeah, I love ambient music. So really I just felt like I wanted to make some of my own, especially like the idea of somebody listening to something that I worked on to go to sleep just is like really amazing to me because of how much of a connection I feel with the music that I fall asleep to.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think ultimately that album ended up being much less of like a relaxation album and more of a like emotional statement than I originally meant for it to be going into it. But yeah, that just ultimately resulted from the experimentation that I like to do with like tape and plugging in my like Casio keyboards from the thrift store into guitar amps and like running through them through different effects and whatever. It's just like playing with toys for me basically, especially like the physicality of like
Mm-hmm.
plugging in things to other things is just very like satisfying to me. So yeah, it's really all there is to it, I guess, is that I wanted to express myself in that way. And so I did it. And when it comes to the visuals, I gathered together a bunch of like VHS tapes and various like Super Famicom and Nintendo 64 games that I had. And I had my friend Cody filming my TV, and I would just like have music playing and switch between the different VHS tapes and the games and kind of just like Um, it was very improvisational. So much of that was supposed to have visuals from my Atari flashback, but that broke like the day that we recorded that. So it ended up being like having to be even way more improvisational
Yeah.
than I thought that it was gonna have to be. But I'm really proud of that, and I want to make more stuff like it.
Yeah, because that was definitely what stood out to me the most of everything I checked out, just because it was so different than like everything else that you
Mm,
tried to do before.
yeah, I appreciate that because yeah, I think it's really awesome that people are willing to listen to music from me that's not like so similar to what they might be familiar with. And especially because like the music that I'm working on now, there is definitely stuff that sounds like older Warm Wishes songs, but I just make what I want to hear. So there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, actually, speaking about the future of your work, so I've loved everything that I've heard from your group, and I'm super excited to see where you all go from here. And I always have a high hopes for the artists that I interview on here, as I really believe in all of them. But I think in your case, I actually have some warm wishes for you instead. So like, what's next for warm wishes?
You know, I get this question sometimes, and I pretty much answer it the same way always. Whether it's like from I guess in general, I mean the question of like what's next for me, because like sometimes it'll be like I don't know, my aunt asking like what are you doing when you graduate college, or but also like if I'm talking to a friend in music, they might ask what we have coming up, and ultimately I always just want to do whatever it is that I can to allow myself to keep making music and playing shows and also like booking shows for other bands. So yeah, I'm just always gonna be like working on music and visual stuff and putting it out when I feel like.
Well, excited to hear it. When I hear it,
Hell yeah.
I was
Thank
also
you.
wondering, like, would you ever want to increase, like, I guess the production value behind your work, or do you always want to have like a DIY sound of what you do?
It's a tough question because like I feel like the DIY sort of ethos is like so key and so like core to what Warm Wishes is.
Mm-hmm.
And so like my gut response is that like yeah, I think I'm always pretty much gonna continue recording stuff like just on my laptop. But I can't say that for certain because I mean like I was talking about before, like that recent Alex G album where he recorded in studio. It's like even without it somehow still had it still somehow felt so personal. So it's really tough to say.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I have been like offered by a friend who works in a studio to record an album together, and I really considered it, but ultimately I just like I don't know, maybe I'm just not ready.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's real. Also, I know you mentioned earlier that your stuff like used to be on Spotify and then like no longer is. Like, is there a reason for that?
So there was one reason, and it sort of shifted because like originally, I'm sure you're probably familiar with like to put your music on Spotify, you need to go through like a distributor. So
Yeah.
like a lot of DistroKid. And I was just like broke, and like DistroKid was supposed to renew, and like there wasn't enough money in my account, and so it didn't. And I was like a little panicked for maybe a week or two, but then I noticed I really noticed the more like the longer our music wasn't on Spotify, genuinely like the better my mental health got and like my outlook on music because like
It wasn't as profit based anymore.
yeah, well I mean there's a lot that goes into it because first of all the Spotify for Artists app is like very much made to be like addictive and like they want you to be checking your monthly listeners, which is like such a weird made up stat anyways, but it's like they make that the most important thing in the world. And there's just such a culture of like yeah, like when Spotify Wrapped comes around, everyone posts like their streaming numbers and I think that culture of like because obviously what's going to happen is you're going to compare your numbers to everyone else and that's just not healthy for anybody. But further than that, it really is just like I am a very politically minded person, and a very like I try to be ethical in what I do. And I think Spotify just like sucks so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, recent news that came out that I haven't even looked too much into, but about like the CEO working with some sort of like AI company or some shit. But even just the fact that like that, I mean, if you read Mood Machine by Liz Pelly, I could like I'll say it 3 times: Mood Machine by Liz Pelly, Mood Machine by Liz Pelly, because she just like says it so much better than I ever will, because like Spotify just like came up as this platform that was like supposed to be good for artists, and it is entirely like now a way to make money off of artists and not pay them. So yeah, it just like feels good to not be on Spotify, especially because it incentivizes people buying physical media or even making a Bandcamp account. Like 1 or 2 people have told me that they made a Bandcamp account because like to listen to Warm Wishes songs, and like that's the best result I could ever think of, because that just opened a whole new world of music for that person.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was just confused because like when I looked at their profile, I saw that you had like I think like 800 something followers on like Spotify, which is like a pretty big amount for like a small artist. So I was like, you
Yeah.
had something going on there, and then it wasn't on there anymore. So I was curious like what the reason was for that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, and like who knows? One day our music might end up back there. I think with how the news has been going, it's probably looking more and more like it probably won't. But
Yeah,
yeah, there's definitely benefits to having your music on Spotify, especially like algorithmically. People would find your music that way. But yeah, ultimately it's just about pros and cons, and I feel like it's not worth it.
yeah. Well, I kind of prefer it on Bandcamp though. Like it has that Bandcamp vibe to it because Bandcamp
Mhm.
already feels so like DIY anyways that it just like made perfect
Yeah,
sense. So
yeah, definitely. So many of the artists that I love are like came up on Bandcamp, or like only on Bandcamp. So it definitely fits.
yeah. And as the episode comes to a close, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Anybody I'd like to give a shout out to? You know what? I'm looking at this poster on my wall. You can't see it, but it's the expressions of Grumpy Cat. It's like it says like happy, bored, proud, confused, sad, etc. But it's like obviously like it's Grumpy Cat, so he's
Mm-hmm.
just grumpy in all of them. I'll give a shout out to Grumpy Cat. He's an underrated meme. I feel like he's been lost to time a little bit.
That's true actually. Yeah, I feel like him and Nyan Cat need to come back.
Totally. I feel like Nyan Cat is making a bit of a comeback, honestly. But Grumpy Cat needs some love. Seriously.
Yeah, I haven't seen like the kid with the fist more recently though. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like him in the
Oh yeah.
sand. Yeah, I saw that in like a gift, like in like a gift shop. They had that, so I was like, oh, he's still kicking.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that one does. Some of those memes have persisted, and it's baffling which ones, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, yeah, and then like, I don't even get me started on Doge and how they've
Yeah.
destroyed his good name.
Well, I feel like Doge's name is still awesome, but it's just like when you look past the Doge itself, you're like, oh,
Yeah, it's it's just so sad because like didn't the dog pass away recently
yeah,
too?
yeah,
And
he did.
like, come on, like let's not associate him with all this stuff. Like let's just keep his memory in dank meme. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Grumpy Cat. Is there anyone else that you're thinking right now?
Shout out my mom and my dad. Yeah, and Hazel, our bassist, and Adrian, our guitarist, and wait, Elijah, our guitarist, Adrian, our drummer, and also our CD player that plays the drum tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to all of them.
Yeah. Shout out to all those people. And shout out to Warm Wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. It was a lot of fun. I had a great
Thank you,
time
Brian.
going through, your Bandcamp here and everything. And now I'm even more excited for this show that'll be happening. As of right now, it's in 3 weeks, but it'll be, or like, I think it might be in 2 weeks actually. I think it's like 2 weeks from this week, which is crazy.
Something like that.
But it'll be today as of when this video comes out. So very excited to see that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you in person. This is
Yeah.
really so much
All the links will be in the description down below. So if you are not tapped in with them, please go do that. I'll also have their Bandcamp especially, so please, because put them on Bandcamp. But is there anything else that you'd like to say? 'Cause I think that's it for me.
I would like to say that if you haven't, you should play Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. And if you don't have a means to play that, then you should get some sort of emulator and play Puyo Puyo 2.
Mm-hmm. I've played it in Sonic Mania, but that's like the extent of it.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That is, I think that's probably the first time I played Puyo Puyo. Also.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I played like Kirby's Avalanche, which is really fun, but I never understood why. I think probably just because the timing worked out, but because Kirby's Avalanche is like the version of Puyo Puyo that we got on the Super Nintendo, because like they thought that like we wouldn't like anime girls or whatever. They thought we would rather like have Kirby characters in it, but they only ever did it with the first game, which is like fundamentally like so much less fun than the second game. But yeah, I don't really know what my point was with that, but I like. And shout out to Carbuncle from Puyo Puyo.
I'll put a picture of whoever that is on screen because I don't know who that is, but I'll find out. I'll find out.
Carbuncle.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm Amu. This has been the Hidden Driveway Show. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.